What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, legendary promoter, top-ranked CEO, Bob Arum, comes out and he states that, indeed, undefeated three-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, former and currently the WBO welterweight world champion, Terence Bud Crawford, was set, signed, sealed, and ready to be delivered. Agreement in place. Deal signed to face 8-division world champion, legendary, iconic, superstar boxer, Filipino world champion, currently the WBA welterweight world champion, Manny Pacquiao, in November. Bob Arum states that they had a deal already in place, contract signed, ready to be delivered. And due to the board of health in the state that they were going to, in the country they were going to use in Dubai, it prevented the fight from taking place because they were set to have fans in attendance, and they said that they can't have more than 3,000 fans in attendance. So they put a halt to the fight. The contract was already signed for us to get Terence Crawford in a unification bout with Manny Pacquiao. Now that makes a lot of sense to why Terence Bud Crawford told two-time welterweight world champion Showtime Sean Porter that he will revisit a fight with him at a later date, when Sean Porter reported that he called and contacted Terence Crawford to stage a showdown. So now Sean Porter stated that Terence Crawford told him that he had something bigger coming down the pipe. And that was Manny Pacquiao in a unification bout. This would have saw Terence Crawford be, because I would have favored Terence Crawford to be victorious in this fight. So this would have saw Terence Crawford be now the WBO, WBA welterweight world champion in a legendary mega pay-per-view showdown that would have bolstered his pay-per-view status and his status as a welterweight overall, because everybody understands his accomplishments in the lower weight classes. But this would have bolted him to a whole different status, right? Beating Manny Pacquiao, a legend, and doing it in a unification bout, right? That would have made the fight between Terence Crawford and undefeated, unified WBC IBF welterweight world champion superstar boxer Earl the Truth Spence Jr. fight in the future that much bigger. I stated this numerous of times that I believe if Terence Crawford would have beaten Manny Pacquiao, the fight with him and Errol Spence would have been enormous. I only think that Errol Spence could offset Terence Crawford, and Terence Crawford could offset Errol Spence. Now Terence Crawford, according to Bob Arum, he says he would love to negotiate a fight with Terence Crawford in the future with Showtime Sean Porter. He says, first things first, obviously Terence Crawford is scheduled to face former IBF welterweight world champion superstar boxer Special K Kell Brook November 14th. So in about 3 weeks, we're going to get 3 to 4 weeks, we're going to get Kell Brook versus Terence Crawford, right? And he says that after that, he would love to do a fight with Terence Crawford and Sean Porter. That's great news, because Sean Porter is #1 in the WBO rankings. That's the sanctioned body and the title that he represents. And Sean Porter is also the WBC #1 challenger for Errol Spence Jr., who has a massive upcoming showdown with, former 2-division world champion, former junior welterweight, unified world champion, and former WBC welterweight world champion Danny Swift Garcia, which is scheduled to take place December 5th in Dallas, Texas, the hometown of Errol Spence Jr., with fans allowed to attend the sporting event. So that's going to be massive, and it's on pay-per-view. So he is looking to do a fight with Errol Spence and Terence Crawford in the future, but he says that he would love to do a fight with Sean Porter and Terence Crawford. So Terence Crawford was scheduled to get a massive fight. He was going to have a massive fight on deck against Manny Pacquiao, and like I said, I would have favored Terence Crawford to win that fight. He said that Manny Pacquiao, I asked him about a future fight with Manny Pacquiao and Terence Crawford. Do they have something in place that will see them revisit those negotiations, since they already agreed upon everything? And he says that anything's possible, but Manny Pacquiao is scheduled, according to him, to fight Conor McGregor. Now, we know Manny Pacquiao, if he fights Conor McGregor, he's going to lose his WBA title. The WBA came out and said that if he pushes forward with a Conor McGregor fight, and this Conor McGregor is not in the top 10 of the WBA rankings, they will strip him of the title. So it's more than likely he'll fight number 2 WBA ranked challenger, and that's 4-division world champion, Mexican superstar boxer Mikey Garcia, before he revisits the Conor McGregor showdown, which looks to set up a possible showdown between Manny Pacquiao and Errol Spence Jr. in the future. So maybe it's more like that Terence Crawford beats Kell Brook, as I'm expecting him to, and then goes on and fights Sean Porter, and then Errol Spence is going to go on and fight Manny Pacquiao, and that's massive. See, a lot of people feel like Manny Pacquiao was avoiding these types of competition, but we see he took on the likes of Adrian Broner. Then he took on Keith Thurman, who was undefeated. He was unified welterweight world champion, superstar boxer. He was once considered the best welterweight in the world, holding the WBC and the WBA titles. He had to vacate the WBC title due to inactivity, and then he lost the WBA title. He had to vacate the WBC title due to inactivity, and then he lost the WBA title to Manny Pacquiao. So Manny Pacquiao is willing to challenge himself even at the advanced age of 40. So maybe we could see Manny Pacquiao versus Errol Spence. We know it's not out the realm. You remember Manny Pacquiao put up a post saying that he wanted to fight Terence Crawford and Errol Spence, and everybody thought that maybe Manny Pacquiao was just saying that for political, right? Right? He's just being politically correct and saying the right things, that he will fight the best in the welterweight division in his weight class. And now we see that he was scheduled to fight Terence Crawford, so it wasn't just him being politically correct, but he was willing to challenge himself. And then he said he wanted to fight Errol Spence, so maybe the door is open for Errol Spence. That's Manny Pacquiao opened up Dallas Cowboy AT&T Stadium when he fought Antonio Margarito, and then he fought Joshua Clottey there. So he loves to fight there. Obviously, Errol Spence was born in New York, but he represents Dallas, Texas, and DeSoto, Texas. So maybe we get Errol Spence versus Manny Pacquiao at Dallas Stadium. It just makes all the sense in the world, right? And then you get Sean Porter, and Terence Crawford. So now there's no mandatory standing in the way of Errol Spence, Terence Crawford, and it's a unification bout for Errol Spence and Manny Pacquiao. It's a massive fight for Terence Crawford. It's not a title belt. It's an opportunity for Sean Porter to gain the title from Terence Crawford, but it's not a unification bout for Terence Crawford. But what it is it's the best fight on his resume. Even though Kell Brook beat Sean Porter, today's time, Sean Porter is seen as the better fighter than Kell Brook, the more quality fighter, right? So it's still a huge fight for Terence Crawford fighting Sean Porter. And so with that said, it sets up an undisputed bout. Should Terence Crawford beat Sean Porter, and should Errol Spence beat Manny Pacquiao? So the fight now, at that point, either which way, it would be for undisputed. So it's huge, right? Like I said, I think that Sean Porter could definitely push Terence Crawford to the brink. He could win the fight. In my eyes, it's a 55-45 fight in favor of Terence Crawford, but it's a massive fight. I don't want to say it's a 50-50 fight. I'll say it's 45-55 in favor of Terence Crawford. I think he just has more tools in the toolbox. He can make adjustments. But how does he do that when you're dealing with Sean Porter? And Sean Porter has never been blown out any fight. All his losses very, very close losses. So he's definitely a handful. I'm expecting Errol Spence to beat Danny Garcia and Manny Pacquiao. Size, strength, and the ability to make adjustments against Manny Pacquiao would be too much, in my opinion, for Manny Pacquiao. And he's a southpaw as well, so he offsets the southpaw advantage that Manny Pacquiao has in most of his fights. So it sets up an undisputed showdown that would be massive. This is already the biggest fight in the sport of boxing, Terence Crawford, Errol Spence. And now it just made it that much bigger. But the point of this video is that Terence Crawford did have the Manny Pacquiao fight done, ready to be delivered to the public. It would have been massive. But we see that the Board of Health, due to the pandemic and due to social distancing, stepped in and stopped and prevented the fight. Unlucky for Terence Crawford. But there's a lot of movement, not a lot of moving pieces, and a lot that can happen. So let's see how everything plays out. But that's all I got for y'all, man. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Would Terence Crawford have beaten Manny Pacquiao? Would Manny Pacquiao have beaten Terence Crawford? Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hey, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed? Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.